On July 5, 1995, authorities in the Fukushima prefecture of Japan were alerted to a distressing discovery as they searched for a missing resident. Their investigation led them to the residence of Sachiko Eto, a 47-year-old cult leader with peculiar beliefs located in Osakuta in Sukagawa City. Within the confines of her home, the grim remains of 6 individuals were discovered, shattering the tranquility of the neighborhood. Promptly, Eto and 3 of her devout followers were apprehended in connection with the ghastly findings. Eto and her followers, in their misguided zeal, had branded their victims as ugly devils and subjected them to relentless beatings with taiko drumsticks in a supposed attempt to exorcise them and cleanse their spirits. But rather than removing any demons from them, this bizarre ritual resulted in their untimely deaths. In May 2002, the Fukushima District Court delivered its verdict, condemning Eto to the ultimate penalty of death for her heinous crimes. So let's take a look at this strange case of exorcism-based murders, carried out by an unstable drumstick-wielding cult leader, and see if we can make any sense of it. The exorcism murders, the strange case of Sachiko Eto. While the latter part of Sachiko Eto's life may have been filled with chaos, violence, and drama, for most of her life, Eto had led a relatively unremarkable existence. After graduating from a local high school, Eto tied the knot with a former classmate, and together they raised 3 daughters. Approximately 6 years prior to the fateful incident in the opening, the family relocated from a nearby municipal residence to a newly developed area along the serene Abukuma River in the Tohoku region of Japan. Initially, Eto found work as a cosmetics seller, while her husband pursued a career as a painter. By all accounts, their lives followed a path of normality and routine, bordering on the mundane even. However, shadows loomed on the horizon, casting a pall over Eto's tranquil existence that would soon thrust her into an abyss of cults, exorcisms, and ultimately murder, crafting one of the most spine-chilling sagas Japan had ever witnessed. The tragic unraveling of the couple's happy normality began in 1990, when Eto's husband suffered a debilitating back injury that forced him to abandon his livelihood. Plunged into a downward spiral of alcoholism, depression, gambling, and debt, the family soon teetered on the brink of financial ruin, leaving them with no choice but to sell their home. Relocating to the Gifu prefecture in a desperate bid to alleviate their woes, they sought solace within a religious sect specializing in spiritual healing, known as Ogamiya-san. Yet their foray into the realm of spirituality was marred by controversy, as they inadvertently appropriated the organization's name without authorization and soon found themselves expelled from its ranks. With his last flame of hope extinguished, Eto's husband underwent a perplexing mental breakdown before he vanished without a trace in 1992. To this day, nobody knows what happened to him or where he went. While it seems to largely be assumed he chose to leave and wasn't the victim of something more nefarious, given his wife's future penchant for violence and murder, it doesn't seem too big a leap to think she may have been somehow involved in what happened to him. Whatever truly happened, Eto's life was never the same afterwards, veering into the realms of the twisted and the bizarre. Following the mysterious disappearance of her husband, Eto found herself thrust into the solitary role of caring for her 3 daughters. Relocating to Sukagawa, nestled in the Fukushima prefecture approximately 100 miles north of the bustling metropolis of Tokyo, Eto embarked on a peculiar odyssey of spiritual healing. But rather than emerging from her journey with a healed soul like she had sought, she instead returned claiming she had become a divine conduit endowed with otherworldly powers. This apparently once ordinary wife and mother was now claiming that she was a living god with magical abilities. Whether this was her true belief, a delusional result of her grief or guilt, or a ruse to achieve a goal known only to her, we will never truly understand. As whispers of her purported abilities spread, she quickly began amassing a devoted following, magnetizing seekers from distant corners with her extravagant claims, boldly asserting her divinity and mastery over the forces of evil. As her legion of followers continued to grow, converging upon her humble abode, seeking solace and salvation, discontent from the surrounded neighborhood also grew, with many residents unhappy with the endless parked vehicles, the eerie resonance of ritualistic chants, and the relentless percussion of a taiko drum echoing late into the night. Despite murmurs of dissent, fear shackled the tongues of her neighbors, resulting in their silence. Had any of them had the courage to report the strange goings-on? Perhaps the coming tragedies could have been avoided. In due course, Eto's home transformed into a sanctuary for over a dozen fervent disciples and their families, ensnared in the grip of her strange, delusional teachings. But it wouldn't be long before Eto's arcane rites transformed into an alarming crescendo of brutality. Reports initially surfaced of Eto's purported use of hypnosis to coerce compliance from dissenting voices, leaving witnesses paralyzed with fear. She justified these actions as a means to purify the soul and eliminate perceived impurities. As the year drew to a close in 1994, Ito's household swelled with the addition of more and more fervent believers in their families. Concurrently, acts of violence, cloaked in the guise of exorcism, escalated. A particular ritual, ostensibly devised to exorcise demonic forces and cleanse the spirit, frequently descended into a manic frenzy of violence, orchestrated with ruthless fervor. Empowered by her zealous convictions, Eto enlisted the initially reluctant aid of her daughter, Yuko, in orchestrating these harrowing ceremonies wherein followers were subjected to merciless beatings with the taiko drumsticks to purge their souls of malevolent entities. At least that's what Eto told her followers. But it just so happened that the targets of these demonic possessions needing to be exorcised were always those who dared to question her authority or refused to succumb to her demands. By all accounts, in next to no time at all, Eto had transitioned into a charismatic cult leader, carrying out acts of disturbing violence unchallenged, with a congregation of devout followers hanging on her every word, no matter how insane, bizarre, or cruel. In a further strange twist, Eto engaged in a torrid affair with a devoted follower within the inner circle called Yutaka Nemoto, a former self-defense attorney, igniting a chain of events that would culminate in bloodshed. Consumed by jealousy and suspicion, she unleashed a savage campaign of violence upon any perceived threat to her relationship, branding perceived rivals as vessels of malevolent spirits and subjecting them to savage beatings to exorcise the demons within them. One such victim, identified only as Ako, was accused by Ito of harboring ill intentions. Seen as a threat to her relationship, she claimed Ako was being controlled by demonic forces and needed to be exorcised. Subsequently, Eto and her cult of followers, including her daughter Yuko and her lover Nemoto, beat Ako in a supposed exorcism with taiko drumsticks before setting their sights on Ako's partner. Both Ako and their partner died from the savage assault on them. Eto's reign of terror continued unabated, claiming the lives of 4 more individuals who she claimed were possessed, though in reality they had questioned her manipulative tactics and cruel methods or were deemed as threats to the increasingly paranoid Ito's relationship. Convincing her followers that they had actually saved the 6 individuals rather than murdered them, Eto told them that their bodies would undergo a miraculous revival once the fetid odor dissipated and would come back to life. Believing the claims of their divine leader, the followers left the corpses in various locations around the house, leaving them to mummify as time passed. But soon, one of these brutal exorcism rituals was set to unravel the dark secrets hiding within the walls of Eto's disturbing home. In June 1995, after being gravely wounded during an exorcism, a devout follower found herself languishing in the bed of a local hospital, bearing grievous injuries from a ritualistic beating with taiko drumsticks. When questioned by the authorities as to what happened to her, the woman revealed the depravity she had experienced at Ito's home, claiming her husband was among the victims of Ito and her cult. She even claimed that the authorities would find the body of a missing local resident at the home if they went to investigate it. Her strange story of exorcisms and violence set the wheels in motion for the sinister tapestry shrouding Ito's clandestine cult to be laid bare to the unflinching scrutiny of the world. Perturbed by these revelations, the police descended upon the residents in search of answers. Though skeptical about what they had been told, it didn't take long for them to unveil a macabre tableau of horror. Within the confines of Ito's sanctum, a grisly scene awaited as authorities uncovered the grotesque remnants of her twisted ceremonies. The decomposing corpses of her hapless disciples, entombed in the sepulchral silence of her abode. 2 men and 4 women, their bodies in various stages of decomposition, lay shrouded in the pall of death, victims of the savage brutality inflicted upon them in the name of exorcism. Eto, along with her daughter Yuko, her lover Nemoto, and a disciple called Mitsuo Sekine, quickly found themselves ensnared in the inexorable grip of justice, facing charges stemming from the ghastly deaths. Ironically, even the survivor who dared to reveal the horrors within the cult's lair found herself implicated in the very violence she had sought to expose. When questioned by the police as to why she murdered the 6 individuals, Eto claimed she had been saving them, and that they would be resurrected now that their souls had been purified. On August 16, 1995, the Fukushima district prosecutor filed charges with the Fukushima District Court, initially not for murder, but for causing fatal injuries. Subsequently, on September 18th, the charges were upgraded to murder. Dubbed the Drumstick Killer by sensationalist media outlets, Ito found herself ensnared in a maelstrom of public outrage and condemnation, her purported descent into madness epitomizing the unthinkable horrors lurking beneath the veneer of societal tranquility. In March 1997, The Sendai High Court sentenced the hospitalized follower who had unleashed Eto's secrets to the world to 3 years in prison. Her daughter Yuko and her lover Nemoto were sentenced to life in prison, while her devoted follower Sakina received an 18-year prison term for his involvement in the murders. Following a 3-year hiatus for psychiatric evaluation, on May 10, 2002, Eto stood trial, with the court outlining the physical abuse of her followers who resided under her roof, under the guise of exorcising malevolent spirits. Throughout the ensuing trial, Eto continued to vehemently assert the inadvertent nature of the fatalities, attributing them to misguided attempts at spiritual liberation, claiming, "I did it as part of a religious service. I never thought they were going to die." Prosecutors contended that Eto's actions inadvertently led to the fatal injuries of 2 members and directly caused the deaths of the remaining 4 between December 1994 and June 1995. Throughout the trial, the Fukushima District Public Prosecutor's Office characterized Ito's conduct as group bullying, positing that she orchestrated the violence to thwart a romantic rival's advances towards her lover, not for any genuine religious purposes. In contrast, Ito's defense attorneys asserted her lack of murderous intent, contending that the victims willingly accepted her beatings as part of their religious devotion. Ultimately, Eto was found guilty of murdering 4 individuals and causing fatal injuries to 2 others through repeated beatings with drumsticks. The president of the Fukushima District Court, Judge Harahiro, delivered a damning verdict declaring, "It is not an act of faith to indiscriminately take the lives of believers in a self-serving manner." Addressing Eto directly, he remarked, "You must face a grave penalty." Despite her fervent protestations of innocence and assertions of divine intervention, the inexorable march of justice culminated in Ito being sentenced to death. Justice Fujita lamented, "It was a heinous crime that warranted capital punishment, and the consequences of snuffing out 6 lives were severe. The killings were carried out through violent assault, bearing an immensely heavy criminal responsibility." As the final echoes of the trial faded into oblivion, Eto met her grim fate on September 27, 2012. The somber pall of justice descended upon her as the noose of retribution tightened around her neck, casting her into the abyss of oblivion at the age of 65. In the wake of the heinous crimes perpetrated within the confines of her humble abode, Japan recoiled in shock and disbelief, grappling with the sinister specter of malevolence lurking beneath the serene facade of suburbia. Yet amidst the clamor of condemnation, the enigma of Ito's descent into madness, her fervent belief in supernatural forces, and the unfathomable depths of human depravity continue to haunt the annals of Japanese criminal history, shrouded in an impenetrable veil of mystery and horror. Between December 1994 and June 1995, 6 hapless followers ensnared in her macabre rites succumbed not to the purported demons that possessed them, but to the merciless onslaught of Ito's drumstick beatings, meeting their demise at her hands. So what do you think was really going on in this strange case? There isn't a lot of information available on it, as it surprisingly received minimal coverage outside of Japan, which makes it difficult to get a full understanding of the twisted killer at the center of it all. Do you think Eto really believed that she was a divine figure who was helping her followers by exorcising them? Or was the entire belief system simply the ramblings of a broken woman who sought power and authority after seemingly losing everything? Do you think Eto was involved in the mysterious disappearance of her husband? Or was his vanishing the straw that broke the camel's back that sent her down a path of insanity and delusion? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below. As always, thanks so much for watching. If you found this video interesting, please like and subscribe, and check out some of the other strange stories and true crime cases up on my channel. You have been watching The Mystery Abyss.